Our next performer came to the Inkberry last summer and brought the house down. And everyone give it up for Pedro Silva.
Thank you. Waiting for my wife and kids to come in here. I told them, like, really gave me a heads up. So I said, hey, come in after. No, but my name is Pedro Silva, and some of you know I used to be a pastor for about 10 years. And then I had a spiritual awakening, and I quit my job. So now I've decided to be a spiritual comedian. And it's all because of some prophecy that happened like a long time ago. I had this dream, and in the dream it said, you can be a corporate recruiter, which I already was at the time. You can be a pastor. And the corporate recruiter gig was kind of cool because I knew where my paycheck was going to be like. Then I could be a pastor, and it was like, but you're always going to have to beg for money. Or you could be a spiritual comedian. And I was like, spiritual comedian? And I was like, yeah, if you're a spiritual comedian, you'll be at such a high vibration, you'll never have to ask for money. You'll just walk in and people will be like, you're good. So I was like, okay. So I did the recruiter thing, I did the pastor thing, and then I decided, or I was more curious, like, well, is the spiritual comedian thing next? And then lo and behold, through the gods of Twitter, I get reached out by my man here, Mr. Odin, and says, out of nowhere, hey, have you ever thought about doing comedy? And I was like, no, like out of nowhere, no context, no anything. And I'm like, wow, man, this man must be like at a very high vibration. And so I say, well, sure, you know? And I asked him what made him think that I would be funny. And he said, I saw you hosting the homeless memorial in Portland. And so I said, okay, that makes sense. So I said, yes. And so I said, yeah, okay, I'll give it a shot. And so now that I'm a spiritual comedian and I've been away from being a pastor for a long time, I started getting in touch with like my higher self, you know, and I'm like kind of getting into the vibes. And I grew up as a fundamentalist, like leaning pretty much, which way's left, which one's right? Oh, this is right. So I was right. I was on the right. I was fundamentalist on the right side of things, you know, that side. And so it's been a long journey from there to here. And I had this like trepidation for coming out as like a spiritual, you know, because I used to be religious. And so I've been like really trying to get over that whole thing and just like be at one with the universe and all things. And so I decided like tonight that I was gonna channel my comedy. So if I'm not funny tonight, it's not me, it's my gods. They're not funny. It's not me. So I'm gonna use a different voice when I start channeling. So the other thing is, if it's not funny, so far so good, so my guys must be doing okay, because I was told by my guys also that if you guys don't laugh, it's because you're at low vibration. And you haven't achieved a level of consciousness to be able to laugh at my jokes. And I don't have to take it personally, you know, because I'm channeling. So, at any rate, one of the things I learned from my guys, and it's really funny because I found that a lot of things that you think are like woo-woo spiritual are actually like present in the traditions that you might consider like the older traditions, like Christianity and Judaism and Zoroastrianism and all those other things. You find the same things, but it's just new language for the same old thing. And so I've been really curious about that and just kind of been hanging out there, and I started realizing that a lot of what we think means whatever doesn't mean much. Like most words don't mean anything. I got into this like really esoteric argument with one of my life friends, and he told me, you know, watch your words, because words have power, and what you say will manifest. So you gotta make sure that you say the words that you wanna say so that you can manifest what you wanna manifest. And then I said to him, I think you're wrong. I think that words don't have power. I think that we give meaning to the words, and the meaning that we give to the words has the power. And so we went back and forth, and then I said, well, you're a garfle. And he said, what does that mean? And I said, exactly. You know, I said, it doesn't mean anything because you don't know what the word means. It's the meaning to the word that has the power, not the word itself. And so I've been really ruminating on that a lot lately and just kind of thinking about like how we use language and how language is like, it's not really what we think it is. Like most of us humans, is like pretty much everybody here speaks English, right? Yeah? Okay. So I'm pretty sure we probably all use the same words, but it doesn't mean we're speaking the same language. Get it? Same words, not the same language. And if you've ever been in an argument, I haven't because I'm enlightened. But I'm assuming that you all know what that's like. And when you get in arguments, it's because you're speaking the same words, but you're not using the same language. And now that I'm aware of that, because I've descended enough from my vibration to understand how that goes, I've realized that some of the arguments I had, that people tried to have with me in the past, it was because they were trapped in that whole illusion and that dichotomy of language and thought that the way they were using words was the way I was supposed to use words, blah, 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 blah. And so it started making me look back on my old relationships. And I had this like ex, and she would argue with me, but I would never participate. Because I was like, I don't do that. And she would, every time we would be in different places and I would just say, how do I get to where you are? She had this habit of telling me how not to get there before she told me how to get there. And I couldn't understand it, so I'd be like, okay, how do you get to the library? And she's like, you know West Street? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you know if you go like 3 miles down West Street? I'm like, yeah. She's like, don't go that way. And I'm like, what? It's like, go on East Street. And I'm like, why the heck did you say that's West Street? It's like, just don't forget about West Street. Now if you go down East Street, you go down 3 miles down East Street, you get down like, yeah, okay, 3 miles down East Street. And then she would say, now you know how there's a library over there? That's not the library that I want you to go to. And I'm like, what? Why don't you tell me all that? And we would just go back and forth. And so I got this point where I was like, okay, what would an enlightened person do? You know, I wanted to tell her, like, please stop giving me directions, right? But I said, okay, what an enlightened person will do is I know that it's all an illusion, so I'm just gonna let her tell me the wrong way to go and then the right way to go, and then I'm gonna look it up on MapQuest. And then I realized now, this is back in the day, before GPS. If we had GPS, we'd still be together. So thank God for slow technology. But I started realizing that all the things we were fighting over were just like words. It was just like language, you know, and the way she communicated wasn't the way that I communicated. Fortunately, I'm married to an enlightened person now over here. Who, But I started thinking about it, and it's like now that I look back and I see all the things in my life, like all the things that went, all the arguments, all the people trying to fight with me, all the times I was like watching them and wondering like what the heck is going on. Like, it was just the freaking words. Like for example, have you ever like thought you heard somebody say something that they didn't really say, and you have like a real reaction to something that they didn't actually say? And then like, it's just like, what the heck was that? So I had this one time, kids, cover your ears real quick. My kids, they're over cover your ears. So one time my brother and I got into this argument, and he was arguing with me. Again, I was too enlightened to argue with him, so I was just like, hey man, injustice everywhere is a threat. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I don't participate in these things. But he was mad at me. And he was trying to like instigate and try to get me to fight. And he was holding a fork. And then he said to me, you know what? I'm gonna fork you in your eyes. And I was like, I didn't say anything about it. I heard what he said, fork you in my eyes. But all of a sudden I heard my mom say, what did you say? What did you say? And she went like nuts. And he was like, I said I'm gonna fork him in his eyes. And my mom said, I did not read, what did you say? And she was losing it. And it took me a while to realize what she thought he said. I kind of realized it about 2 weeks ago. Which reminds me of the time I was gay for one day. So, let me tell you about this. This is also about communication. So, I have Asperger's. And a lot of people don't know that, especially now at this stage of my life, because I've like done a certain amount of like tools that I use so that it's, you know, I'm not hiding, I'm not masking. It's just tools that I got tired of getting punched in the face. So I had to figure something out. And so I used to not pick up on social cues very well. So one day I'm at this hotel in Panama, and I come up to this guy, and I say, haven't I seen you somewhere before? And to me, that's just like a question, like, haven't I seen you somewhere before? But to some people, that's flirting. And so he said, why, yes, I think we may have seen each other somewhere before. And I said, yeah, you look so familiar. I'm really good with faces. And I just think if I hadn't seen you before, you wouldn't seem so recognizable. And he said, well, you seem recognizable too. And he's like, how long you been here? I said, oh, just a couple days. And he was like, oh, well, I'm just checking in the hotel. I don't know anybody. Would you like to hang out tonight? I said, yeah, sure. I guess we can hang out, it's fine. He said, meet me at my room. I said, sure, fine. So I go and I'm knocking his door and he's there and he just has his shirt on and some boxer shorts. And I said, hey man, we're supposed to be leaving, how come you don't have pants on? And he said, oh, I don't like wrinkling my pants. So I just don't wear them until I'm about to walk out the door. So I just said, oh, okay, cool. Doesn't make sense to me, but hey, you do you. He said, well, why don't we have a drink before we go out on the town? I said, sure, let's have a drink. That's fine. I didn't really drink though, but I was just trying to get my social skills on, so I said, can I have a drink? And he had a table full of nips. I mean, like 30, 40, 50 nips. He's like, yeah, he starts pouring them in my thing. I said, I don't really drink, man. I'm just gonna have like one. He's just pouring them. And then I'm like, he's just, have one. I said, okay. He didn't have one. So then I'm like, okay. And he's just talking to himself. And then out of nowhere, he just goes, do you have any fantasies? And I was like, what kind of fantasies? And he said, fantasies. And I was like, I live like nonfiction. And then he was like, no, you know what I mean, fantasies. And I said, he's like, what relationship fantasies? And I said, oh man, yeah, I do. I would love for my wife not to get mad at me. Not you. And he goes, no. And I'm still like, what is he talking about? And then he goes, I'll say it in Pig Latin so my kids don't understand. Actuals say, Annecy's fake. So then I said, oh no. I don't have those kinds. I don't get into that sort of thing. And he said, you sure, And he's like, and I said, what do you mean? He said, would you ever kiss a guy? And I was like, no, I wouldn't. And I'm just talking to this guy I'm not doing anything. Cover your ears. And he says, I said, no, I wouldn't do that. And I said, are we supposed to be going out? He said, yeah, we're just keep talking. And then he's kind of he sits on the bed. And he leans up against the wall. And I'm like, why are you sitting in the bed? He said, I just want to relax before we go out, just to let you finish your drink. And I was just like, oh, no, we're not going to do that, man. We're just going to take off. And I said, no, let's sit here and talk a little bit more. I said, okay. And then I noticed, let's see, how would I describe this? His goats were getting out of the pasture. And I was like, I noticed it. I said, man, this guy's going to, I don't want to embarrass him, but I can see his goats leaving the pasture. And I don't know if I want to be rude. It's kind of like if a person has broccoli in their teeth, you should tell them. So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, hey, I don't know if you, when you keep moving your leg like this, and you're swinging your leg, I can see some stuff. And so I kind of don't want to look in your direction while we're talking. And he was just like, oh, you're so funny, stop playing around. And then I started thinking we've been here for quite some time. He's asking all these questions. Is it possible he's flirting with me? And I was like, he might be. But why would he flirt with me? What could I have possibly done to make him think that I was interested in anything? And then I had a flashback and it was and I started imagining through his eyes and I was like, hey, haven't I seen you somewhere before? I'm really good with faces. If I hadn't seen you before, you wouldn't seem recognizable. Oh, me? I just got here. I don't know anybody. Sure, let's go out tonight. I'll meet you at your room. And then I was like, oh no! Oh my God! I'm gay! Which is fine. But then I said, I think I'm not gonna go out tonight. As a matter of fact, my wife doesn't like me going out. And my fantasy is for her not to be mad at me, so I should just go call her and just talk to her on the phone. Yeah, that's what I think I'll do. And then he said, no. And he started chasing me out the room. And then I started running. I was like, and then I like look back, and there's people in the hallway, you know, as there are in a hotel. And then he just like boldly says, which I gotta give him credit, you know. He said, don't spend the night in that bed by yourself when you know you don't have to. And I was like, I snore. This reminds me of the time I was Chinese. So, one of my many careers that had a lot of different jobs, one of them was I was a Chinese language analyst. And, you know, it was a fun gig. I actually made more sense to myself in Chinese than I do in English. And I've been doing a lot of thought about that as well. Now I'm gonna just kind of say some things that are kind of politically, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So like, I know a lot of people are hating on DEI these days. You know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Everyone's like, oh, DEI, it's like a woke, blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk about woke in a minute. But I realized that basically in America, talking about language, how do you say this? White people think they own English. Just gonna put that out there, right? So I realized that when I tried to do self-talk to myself in English, there were limits on how I could express myself because the language itself was not created for people who come from different groups to be able to express their own inner life. But when I learned Mandarin, all of a sudden I could say things to myself that made me feel more liberated because I could say it in a different language. And so I was really, really kind of like embracing this like Chinese thing. Like, wow, I make sense to myself in Chinese. I don't make sense to myself in English. And so I was really, really into it. So much so that when I got out of the military, I ended up moving into an Asian, like outside of an Asian community so I could stay in practice. And I became a car salesman in an Asian community. So when people would call for a Chinese-speaking car salesman, I would show up, you know? And there was two other Chinese speaking car salesmen, so I was like the last they would pick. I was like third round. But they would say, oh, Chinese speaking car salesman, blah, blah, blah. So one day they said, Chinese speaking car salesman to the front. I'm like, yes. So I run there, and at the time I had dreadlocks. So I run in there and I'm like, oh, yeah. And then the Chinese guy answered, actually, I'm gonna ask this, is it racist for a black person to use a fake Chinese accent? I don't know. I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just trying to tell the story. So I know I'm like in like left-leaning, bouldery place. I don't want anybody canceling me. So, or you can't cancel me, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so this guy showed up. He said, I said, Chinese speaking car salesman. And they said, well, this is what you got. And which wasn't a really nice introduction now that I reflect on it. But this is what you got. So the guy's like, okay. So he gets in the car, and he doesn't think I speak Mandarin. So he gets in the car, and he's talking with his wife, and they're just talking about how much they want to pay for the car. And he's like, and I was like, okay. And then I started thinking, I said, man, I feel kind of embarrassed with this guy. He doesn't know that I know what he's saying. And I was sitting there thinking about it. I said, what would be the right thing to do? So I think I should tell him. So, you know, broccoli and tea kind of thing. And so I say, sir, I feel like I should tell you that I understand what you're saying right now. And he looked at me and he goes, impossible. And I was like, what? He said, I speak in Chinese. I said, I know, sir, and I understand what you're saying. No. You don't understand. I speak in Chinese. I said, sir, yes, I do understand, and I know what you just said, and I'm trying to respect your privacy, because I know you're trying to do this thing called Taojia Huajia, which is basically like going back and forth over the price. So I said, I know what you're doing, and I just feel like I should tell you. He goes, no. And I said, well, 听得懂你刚才说的话. And then he goes, ay ya! Just like that. He goes, ay ya! 你怎么会说? He's like, how can you possibly speak? And I said, 我在一个语言学院学国语. And he's like, what? And he's like, looks at me, he's like in shock. And he goes, no, this is impossible. And I'm like, how's it impossible when we're like actually sharing this experience right now? And then he goes, you must be a linguistic genius. And I said, no, I don't think so. How can you speak Chinese? So I went to school, I studied it. And he goes, no. You are a linguistic genius. And I was like, okay, I didn't know where it was going, so I was like, okay, fine. And then he goes, because you are a black man. And I was like, yes, I know. He's like, a black man speaking Chinese? And I'm like, yes. He was very emphatic. And he goes, how is this possible when black people cannot even speak English? And then I was like, okay. Well, sir, I think I might also need to tell you that what you just said was quite racist. Me racist? No. I speak truth. Not my fault. I see black people that can't speak English. And I was like, but I'm also speaking English right now as well, sir. And he's just like, no. You're a genius. I was like, thank you, sir. Yeah, okay. So, and that's like goes down to like stereotypes.
Did you sell the car?
I sold him the car. That part wasn't important. But yeah, I did sell him the car, and I didn't give him a discount. I think he was a little embarrassed. It's like, 不好意思, which is like, I'm embarrassed. Which really means not good meaning, because it's like really literal translations, which I think is why I made sense to myself, because I kind of took things literally. So, speaking of literal, I'm gonna do a magic trick today. This is my first magic trick. My family doesn't know I do magic. It's gonna be a little, I heard my kids say, oh no. My magic trick is even though many people cannot do this, but you know, I told you I was a light. I will define woke. That's my magic trick.
Thank you.
Woke, are you ready? Because it's gonna blow your minds. It is Ebonics for awake. That's it! Woke is awake! Holy yes word! My kids are here. Woke is awake. All it is awake. So somebody says, stay woke. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now. Black people, you better stay woke. That's how I got started, basically. Besides the Erykah Badu song, but I'm not gonna get into that. So they say stay woke. And every black person who isn't ashamed of being black, because that's a whole other thing, says, oh yeah, stay woke. That's it, stay woke. But then I told y'all, backtracking, the white people, no offense to y'all that are white, but most white people, they think they own English. So, they said, stay woke. That's not how you say it. It would be stay awake. They said stay woke. So now, because words don't really have meaning, but it's no power, but it's the meaning that you give to the words to give the power, people decided, hey, I'm gonna make woke mean something that it never really meant. And it's only in America, now I'm coming back over to the right where I came from. It's only in America that people will be proud of saying, I'm a sleepy ASSMF. So I'm trying to do this for my kids. I'm sleepy, and that's a good thing. I don't want to be awake. I'm anti-awakeness, only in America. And I used to be, I'm saying this as a person, when I went into the military, I grew up Republican. I was like swallowing Jimmy Swaggart and like all those dudes. Everything from, I was at my grandma's house where I lived, all I listened to was Focus on the Family. So, and when I went into the military, I was like, I'm proud to be an American. streets, I know I'm free, until I found out I wasn't. And I was like, God dang! Jimmy Swaggart lied. Jim and Tammy Baker weren't telling the truth. But I realized that people thought they owned the language. And when you think you own the language, it doesn't matter what other people say. Because if they don't say it the way that you think it should be said, you have the option not to hear it. So now I'm sounding woke, but I'm really just being awake. And I want everybody else to wake up. That's why the comedy style that I do, I call it liberation comedy. Because my style of comedy is really to get people thinking, to pay attention to what they're saying, and realizing that they have a choice and what power they give to the words that they speak. And that's why I love comedy. Because comedy gives you a chance to see the absurdity in our everyday lives. And to realize that we're pretty laughable, right? So, let me see, what other things I can say, for example, now that I got all serious, I gotta kind of break it up a little bit. So I'll tell you another thing that's I've learned about words is religion is all about words too. And actually, who knows what the word religion actually means? Anybody know? Religio?
No.
Who?
No.
Law? Well, no.
Find it out, find it out.
It means to bind. It means to bind, actually. The word religion means to bind.
I'm gonna Google it.
Say what? You're gonna Google it? He wants to see if I'm lying. Good Lord. Hey man, I can make crap up if I want to.
I've never thought of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it means to bind. It means to bind. And so, after I had my spiritual awakening, I was like, yo, I can't be binding people. And I realized that, like, our languages and our myths are like shaping the world that we have, and it's keeping us bound to the past. And so I'm trying to figure out new ways and new words to kind of shape the future that we want to live in. But right now I've discovered that there's some words that don't exist to articulate the future. You know, and if you pay attention to how we use language, you see that. Like, tell me what's the opposite of a fascist?
Social communist.
Nah, they say anti-fascist. Yeah, they say, what's the opposite of a racist? It's like anti-racist. So they can't find like a word to fully describe this other way of being that we want to live in the world. I started thinking about it now, that like religion actually has, and no offense to religion, I'm just saying in my experience, is that it has bound us to a certain amount of time and context. It's making us feel like we're stuck. And I'm trying to break it open and realize that like the people that we see in the world, like sometimes the people that you think are the most, like, I'll give you an example. Like, I met this homeless dude the other day. His name is Clinton. And he called me out of nowhere, and he probably would have been welcomed in a lot of religious places. So Clinton calls over to me and he goes, hey man, you still MCing? And I was like, I never met this guy in my life. And little you know, I actually do rap. So I'm like, yo, what?
He does, so good.
Yeah, he just calls me out of nowhere. He said, you still MCing? And I said, yeah, I am. So I walk over to him, and then he goes, spit around for me, I want to feel it in my soul. And I said, all right, man, this dude might be Jesus. So let me do it. So then I start rhyming to him, and I'm like, even though it's all the same from the start to the finish, I should pray to try to keep my soul clenched. I need a witness, heaven help me, be what I can be, see what I can see. All souls are free, no types of barriers, no types of walls. Alter my position as I hit the altar call. Death is a shadow and I'm walking in the light. So can I come with your power and your might? Give me your anger, don't be a stranger to my righteous indignation. Bring an end to the wretched situation that I've been facing. Newscasts blasting, word is tripping, people perish but they don't got a vision. That's what you said, I need a place to lay my head, to be my pillow. Now I will, but not my will though. The cross I bear is not scared, you created me prepared, so the haters best be beware. Clinton says to me, yeah, I feel it in my soul, brother, I feel it in my soul. He's a white dude. And then he goes, I feel it in my soul. And then he says, you know, brother, I don't like talking to humans. And I was like, all right. You know? I said, what humans? All humans. I said, sweet. And, we're in a conversation, but apparently I'm not human. And he goes, but you, I feel it. You're a warrior like me. I said, nice. And then he said, you know what my name means? I said, I do not know what it means. He said, it means a city on a hill that can't be moved. Google it. I don't know if you're telling you got to Google it yet. But he said, there's a city on a hill that can't be moved. And we were on the hill over here in Bastille. He was literally on the hill. And he was like, this is where I dwell. And I've been holding this space for however many years because I can't leave my people. And I was like, yo, I hear you. And then he just told me, I said, all right, and he was just like, I'm doing the work. And I started looking at him and said, man, yo, you know what? If you were in the church right now, they'd probably kick you out, right? Unfortunately. But he's telling me I'm doing the work. I'm holding the space, And he said, you hold your space. I said, I will clean. And then I offered him some cookies, which I shouldn't have done. Because I said, hey man, you eat cookies? And he's like, how the hell you offer me some cookies? And I was like, my bad. He's like, as if I don't have food everywhere. And I was like, nice. Give me cookies to a squirrel. I said, all right, I give it to the squirrel. But he taught me a lesson. That it's not about the words, and it's not about the institutions, and it's not about the binding, but it's about the freedom of the soul. And so I said, yo, Clinton, I'm gonna take your word to the streets, or to this comedy spot. Which reminds me of the time I saw Jesus. And then I'll wrap it up because I don't know how much time I have left. But every Easter when I was a pastor, Jesus used to actually come to get communion from me. But every year was a different Jesus. And they would come through, and we'd be giving out, cup of blessing, bread of life, that sort of thing. And I have sometimes a girl Jesus, sometimes a guy Jesus, some Jesus I wasn't sure which way or the other. And this one Jesus comes up to me, and he stares at me when I'm giving him communion, and he just glares in my eyes. And there's like a whole line waiting behind him. So I'm like, hurry up. And I start thinking oh shit, it's Jesus again. So he stands and he stares me in the eyes, and I'm like, cup, bread of life? And he's just like, I don't eat myself. And I'm like, all right, cool. Cup of blessing. And he was like, I am the cup. I'm like, sweet. Well, there's a line behind you of people who don't know that they're Jesus. So we're sitting there, and then I wait for him after the service. He waits for me, I should say. So then I'm about to leave. And then I see him there, and he's standing there, and he's like, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah, he hadn't revealed himself to me yet. And I said, yeah. And then he said, I know Jesus. I said, nice. Me too. He said, no, I really know Jesus. I said, me too. And he said, I know Jesus so close, so intimately. I said, that's beautiful. Me too. He said, in fact, I am Jesus. I said, awesome. I've been waiting to meet you. So then he keeps going, he's talking to me, telling me some things, and he's just going on. He goes, yeah, I said, do you want to know how I realized I was Jesus? And he's like, yeah. I said, my family didn't understand me. I'm like, me neither. Yeah. My relationship didn't work. Oh, mine neither. And he keeps going. He's telling me, basically, I had a rough life, which qualified him for being Jesus. So he goes through the whole thing, and I'm listening to him, and saying, now I'm here to, bring miracles and bring light to the world. I'm like, nice. And then he keeps going, and then eventually I said, can I ask you a question? He said, yeah. And I said, what do people normally say when you reveal yourself to them? And then he goes, no one else ever let me get this far. So, anyways, I start to wind up. I gotta wind up, right? Yeah, I gotta wind up. Let me leave you with, let me check in with my guides and see what they want y'all to know before we go. All right, guys, don't fail me. They said they already told you the joke, but y'all weren't listening. Hold on. Come back. All right. It's about belonging. So, last thing that God's going to tell you is about belonging. Truth is, everybody belongs. We just don't have the words to articulate it. And it's up to each and every one of us to wrestle with the words and bring them to submission until they articulate the reality of what is, which is that we all belong. Even when you see people, I got this little trick I'm gonna start doing with racists and fascists, is I'm gonna start pronouncing it differently. So I'm gonna call them facists and racists. So just to like bother people, somebody, what'd you say to me, you racist? You must be a freaking fascist. Just to mess with them, Some faces and racists. But even they just want to belong. They're just looking for a way to belong, you know what I mean? They want to be in community. They don't want to feel like they're alone and isolated in the world. So if we can open our hearts and channel our higher selves and embrace our expansiveness and all those other words that mean love everybody, then we'll create a world that really dwells in belonging. So the guys want me to tell you that your belonging is never in question. If you are here right now, it's because all of creation had taken a vote and said yes to you. And so your job is to say yes to yourself, and then understand that if you can say yes to yourself, then you can say yes to someone else. And then all of us can dwell together. The faces, the races, the awakened, and the anti-woke, all of us. And even the butt trumpeters. I don't know if y'all know about butt trumpeters, but before we go, let me tell you about butt trumpeters. Butt trumpeters, as far as I know, I got an email to join a butt trumpeter group. I believe it's a fart group where people get together and they have powerful flatulence and they try to make music with their farts. Yes. Look up butt trumpeters. Google butt trumpeters and fart pirates. But the reason why I tell you about the butt trumpeters and the fart pirates is because they too want to belong. Everybody wants to belong. We created a society, unfortunately, where butt trumpeters and fart pirates feel like they cannot express themselves in public. And so they have to create a space for themselves. I want you to honor the butt trumpeters and the fart pirates of the world and embrace your own inner butt trumpeter and fart pirate. Because there's a place for you in this world. You belong. Everything belongs. So we will create a world of equity where butt trumpeters and fart pirates also have a place of belonging. Because if you because I'm laughing at my friend, he's a rabbi, right? I'm not gonna call him out, but I already did. But anyway, he's laughing and making it funnier. But if we're gonna create social cohesion, we have to create a space where even the person that feels the most left out feels like they have a home. Because if the most left out feels like they have a home, then everybody has a home. So I will leave you with a message from my butt trumpeter and fart pirate friends. No, I'm just kidding.